It's 7 o'clock. We start on time every month. So whoever's not ready to listen needs to leave. Hey, who in the room is conservative?
On the fence.
Any liberals in the room? Kansas City Star? Anywhere? Just making sure we're all on the same page here. My name is Chuck Quisenberry. I do not pitch for the Royals. I never did pitch for the Royals. But I'm Quiz, he was Quiz, just to clear that up. Who we are. We the people. Not me the people. We the people. We put this thing together about 26 months ago with about 20 people in the room, and it's continued to grow ever since. We've got 3,500 people on our closed Facebook page. Good. If y'all want to be on the Facebook page, all you got to do is ask. It's We the People of Jackson County, Missouri. So I kept it a unique name that way. There's a lot of We the Peoples out there, but this one's We the People of Jackson County, Missouri. A lot of people don't know that this club was even here. How many people are here for the first time tonight? We've been doing this for 26 months. Where you been? Trying to find it. Yeah, there you go. Trying to find it. This gun club has been here since 1955. The fishermen of Lake Lotawana put this together because they wanted a place to shoot trap, and it's been here forever. We've improved it over the years. This is a rental hall too. We do rent the space. For We the People, until November the 1st, we're renting it for $400, which is cheap. After that, it goes up to $600. But if anybody wants to rent the place, all you got to do is say you're with We the People, and you'll get it for a better price. And then on Monday through Thursday night, it rents for $200. So if it's a weeknight, it's only $200. I mean, it's a very affordable place. We have weddings, we have funeral, we have everything here that you can imagine, because there's a lot of people that shoot out here, and then they use the hall to rent for anniversaries or birthdays or whatever. So a few things. As you're coming in, if you're not getting emails from us and you want to, just sign the paper over here. And we extended it because we've got We the People. We've also got the sheepdogs. So you've got to check mark both of them if you want to be on both of the email campaigns. We've got a book of business. I'm just trying to tell you everything that we do, because we're starting to do more and more and more expanding on different things. But we do have a book of business over here. We decided several months ago that all the business owners.
That was me.
Oh, that was you?
I'm connected.
There's 5 minutes.
I thought I didn't turn my phone off there for a second. All the business owners in the room, we wanted to bring their business cards, put them in the book of business, so that if you need a plumber, we've got a plumber in the group. That way we're giving money back to alike minds, alike people, and this book of business is going to take off really well for us. There's no doubt in my mind. Where's Donna Gordon? Donna's waving there. She has put together this email campaign. I did print off 25 copies of the book of business up here. If you want to be part of it, bring your cards. She'll add you to the next month. It's not a problem. And then I had a friend. Is Russ in the room? Russ not in the room? Hey, can I use you as an example, Russ? Yeah. All right, good. I was going to anyway. Russ owns a mechanic and diesel shop in Grain Valley. He came to me last week and he goes, somebody from We the People came to my shop. That's how it works, because that's how we help each other. That's how we grow each other's business. And So it's really cool how it works, and it can grow and grow and grow. So enough about the book of business. What we cover, we the people. My friend right over there with his hands together, hands apart, hands together. He and I talked 27 or 8 months ago and decided that we need to get a gathering. We need to get people together. It was back when the riots were going on in Kansas City, and it's back when they said they were coming to the suburbs. And if what's the name of that city in St. Louis? Ferguson. If a Ferguson happened right here in Lee Summit or Blue Springs, they would take over quickly, just like they did there. So we wanted to try to get a group of people together that were conservative, maybe conceal and carry, maybe knows the Second Amendment and how important that is, but also maybe a way that we could help out if we needed to help out. Now, we did not start that group immediately. We wanted to grow we the people first, get a feel for how everything's working, and then get a group within the group. The group within the group is called the Sheepdogs. We named them, and it's all about conceal and carry, safety, subdivision security, getting to know your neighbors, talking to your neighbors, and then it's kind of, sort of like a, what was that group called? Neighborhood Watch. Neighborhood Watch. That is no longer. Is that me beeping?
That's me again. I'm
Okay.
connected to
That's
the
okay, that's all right.
thing.
I'm babbling, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But it's kind of like Neighborhood Watch, and we want anybody that wants to be involved with sheepdogs, or anybody that wants one of these signs to put in their front yard, to talk to the neighbors about it. We just want to keep our Lee Summit, Blue Springs, Green Valley, we want to keep it safer, we want to pay attention. Paying attention is the key. Friend of mine over here, wait, my friend.
Which one does it have?
The one with the red, white, and blue shirt on. He lives in a really nice neighborhood right up off 7 in Colburn. And people walk through that neighborhood checking car doors through the entire neighborhood. And this was only, 3 or 4 months ago, wasn't it, Wilson? And they were stealing cars in a really nice subdivision. And nobody's paying attention, nobody, it just, there's a policeman that had his car stolen, didn't he?
No, but he lived just across the street.
Oh. So, he was kind of embarrassed, he left his car unlocked.
Oh, that was my next door neighbor.
That was your next door neighbor, okay, I got you.
They got into his car and stole stuff out of it.
So I just want to let you all know who we are and what we're about. We started this group, and our bullet points were police, security, legal, health, human trafficking, which includes drug trafficking, which includes the wall down on the border. That's a whole big conversation right there. And then politics. A lot of people don't realize politics was only 1/6 of what we were talking about. But our friend Trump got the campaign stolen from him in 2016, and it pissed a lot of us off. And or in 20, he won in 16. In 20, and it woke us up. It frustrated us, and we decided to start this group and to wake up the silent majority and to make a difference in our cities and in our county and in our state, which will make a difference nationwide. And I'm not bragging or anything like that. I think we've done a pretty good job waking a lot of people up. We did. So real quickly, I want to introduce the directors of the Sheepdogs. Wilson, stand up. Wilson Server. This is Rick Durkin. Wilson is, they're both conceal and carry instructors. Rick is an ex-policeman in Blue Springs.
Wilson used to sell drugs?
Yeah, Wilson was in pharmaceuticals, yeah.
What's the difference?
Jeff right here, he's a director on sheepdogs. And his wife Cindy helps out a whole lot on everything, that's for sure. And they're the ones who came up with the sign for us. And then I'm a director on the sheepdogs also, because I got to be in there somewhere, right? Then we have 5 directors on We the People. We the People has Tom Manns is a director on We the People. Sean Luchtel. My twin brother, Ron Freeman. Myself, and then my wife. She couldn't make it tonight. It's my daughter's birthday. She took her out to dinner, so she couldn't make it. But we've got 5 directors on We the People. We've got 5 directors on Sheepdogs. Okay. Ready for the national anthem? It's been beeping at us the whole time, so go ahead and play the national anthem for us. If everyone wants to stand up, take your hat off. Keep standing. You know, this country might be sick a little bit, but it's still the best country in the world. Amen. And we are going to heal this country. There's no doubt in my mind on that, too. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. You want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice job. Nice job. Hooah! Now I want to introduce my favorite preacher, Tom Manns.
Amen. You guys go ahead and be seated. I'm going to pray at the end of my brief comments here. I just want to say that Chuck is extremely kind in the way he sterilizes the story about how we started this group, because when I first came to him, a We the People educational group was not my main thrust. There was another thing I had in mind, but since we're on internet, I won't mention what that is. But it's turned into something very beneficial, and I'm very happy about it. And I just want you all to know that he sterilized the story to make me look acceptable. Okay? And I am a pastor of a church in Blue Springs, and I'm just going to share just a brief few moments with you here, and then we'll pray and turn it over to those that are on the agenda tonight. I want to talk just a minute about the importance of having a clear understanding of your core values. It troubles me when I look at the political arena in our country and realize that at least what they tell us is that it's the independents that sway the elections back and forth. And every election cycle, you've got to win the independents to join them to your political party in order to win the elections. Whether that's always true or not, I don't know. But the fact that there is a large number of independents in this country has always troubled me. I became a Christian in 1971 while serving overseas in the Navy. And by the mid-'70s, I had pretty well clearly solidified my cultural philosophy, my political philosophy, and I've never varied from that. I've never been an independent. I've never seen the need to be an independent. Now, if you're an independent, that's fine. It's your choice. It's a free country. But I have to ask you, why are you an independent? Is it because you don't understand or you haven't maybe studied out or researched what the political platforms actually say? Because if you understand what the political platforms actually say, they are night and day difference. There's very little middle ground between the two primary political platforms. And from a standpoint of a student of the Bible and a teacher of the Scripture, to me the Scripture talks a lot about understanding what you believe and knowing what you believe. Because if you don't know what you believe, you can be influenced. You know, the thing that touches your emotions can influence you. And I personally don't live by emotions. Sometimes that upsets my wife, but I'm a very straight line, rigid. I know what I believe, I know why, and I don't vary from it. And the Scripture talks about that. I'm thinking of the Scripture in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14, where it talks about growing up and putting down roots so that you're not blown about by every wind, every wave, every little philosophy that comes along. The book of Colossians, Paul talks about it too, not to be deceived by false philosophies. And believe me, especially in an information age that we live in today, we are inundated with voices, we're inundated with philosophies and people's opinions and interpretations every day. And you've got to understand, really, that there's a need on everybody's part. And I'm probably preaching to the choir here, because if you all are here in a group like this, you're probably not independents. You probably know what you believe. But if you have family members, if you have children, adult children, if you have brothers and sisters that are in this independent realm where they've always got to say, well, I've just got to see who all's out there. Too many people vote for what the government's going to do for them. And that is ruining our country, folks. And if you're voting because of what the government's going to give you, you are part of the problem. And you're not going to fix this country. So one of the things that even as growing up in a non-Christian home, one of the things I was trained with was the idea that I was responsible for the outcome of my life, and I better get out and work. My mom and dad, when I turned 18, I had 2 or 3 choices: go to college, get a job, or go to the military. So I went to college and flunked out, and then I went to the military. And that's when my life really changed, when I went into the military. But I just wanted to share that with you, and I want to say this: if you don't have a good, concise, condensed version of comparisons of the two political parties, I pulled this off the internet and printed it out. You can get it at frcaction.org. That's Family Research Council Action.org, and it's free of charge on there. It does a side-by-side comparison. Here's some of the issues they deal with: sanctity of human life, redefining marriage, LGBT agenda, abortion, that whole issue, health care issues, deals with religious liberty, international relations, God and government, the courts, sex education in our public schools, education choice, which I strongly propose, and it talks about social experimentation in the military. So it deals very clearly but very briefly, so you don't have to read 800 pages. If you ever look at the full platform of the political parties, they're hundreds of pages long.
Would you repeat that?
frcaction.org. That's Family Research Council, but it's frcaction.org. Okay? So that's my spiel for tonight. Let's pray. Father, we just pray that you'll bless the meeting tonight. God, give us grace to hear, to understand, to comprehend. And Lord, give us a heart to really know what we believe and why we believe, so that we can be deeply rooted and not be blown around by all these philosophical waves that are sweeping over our world. We thank you for that tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. He's a good preacher.
Good preacher.
Good preacher. He told me last week that so many of you are starting to go to his church now that he might have to have a second service. And he said, I don't want to work that hard. And I thought that's pretty dang funny, you know.
What is the name of this church?
Good question. It's called Summit Springs, and it's right next to Petland in a strip mall right there. As you're going north on 7, it's on the west side.
Right across from Dairy Queen.
South 7.
If you're going north on 7 from here, it's on the west side.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're okay. You're all right. That's okay.
Next to Salvation Army.
Yeah, he's got Facebook. You got a Facebook and a live stream page, yeah. Yeah. Do you know
Summit Springs Church on Facebook, just.
Summit Springs Church on Facebook?
1407 South 7 Highway.
It's 1821 Southwest 7.
Nice job.
Just teasing.
See what you started?
Yeah. I love this group, I really do. You know what I love about this group is we are like-minded. We love to smile. We love to have fun. We're hardworking. We feed our families. We go to church. The only problem that we've had is that we've been asleep for a little too long. And we've let the Democrats take over. We've let, for way too long. But finally, it seems to me like we're waking up. And it seems like we're starting to take a hold again. And we will see tomorrow, and we will see in November just how well all this has worked. I think it's going to be a landslide. I think we're going to take the Senate back. I think we're going to take the House of Representatives back.
Yeah.
And hopefully there won't be the nonsense that we've had for the first 2 years. I invited the candidates, anybody that wanted to come and speak for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, to come on up and give us your presentation on the election. Who wants to come up? We got, I guarantee you guys aren't shy. Come on.
Will you have somebody talk about that committeemen, committee,
Talk about what?
the difference in the committeemen and committee women that are on our ballot?
Yeah, I have no idea what that is, so we'll let Donna talk about it.
Donna will talk about it.
Hi, my name is Brenda Allen, and I am running for Jackson County Legislature, 1st District at large. And at large means that everybody can vote for me in Jackson County, so I hope that you will. And I am a musician by profession. I never thought I would run for office, but when approached to run for office, I thought I'd rather walk barefoot on Legos than run for office. But there was one thing that above all others that compelled me to jump in, and that is corruption. The corruption that is Jackson County. The corruption is historic in Jackson County. It's a legacy and legendary. And so we need to expose that corruption and root it out. One thing that was really bothering me, and I'll just briefly talk about some areas of corruption, but one thing that also really bothered me was my opponent on the Democrat side, who is on the legislature right now. His name is Jalen Anderson, and Crystal Williams, who is on the legislature right now for Jackson County, presented a proposal that was totalitarian, having to do with our health care, mandates, all kinds of mandates. It is really egregious. I couldn't believe it. It's unconstitutional. And I thought, we have to get in there and fight against that because it is terrible. But corruption also rears its ugly head in the taxes. And we've talked a lot about taxes, and you probably are as aggrieved as I am about the taxes. Also, I haven't heard a lot about people talking about spending and spending cuts. We need to streamline what we don't need. We need to just do the function of government and figure out other ways to help people which is not necessarily just a function of government, but to have all these social programs that are not the function of government is great, but we can't afford it on the backs of the taxpayers. When the function of government is in the Constitution to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness is also property. A couple of things having to do with the corruption that I didn't know about until recently, about 4 months ago or 5 months ago, is that there are two things I'll just bring up really briefly tonight. The Rock Island Railroad corridor that the Jackson County Legislature illegally partnered with the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. That was illegal according to the Missouri Constitution. They had to forfeit the land that they paid $52 million for, and they still probably have to pay that back. Also, the other thing is we've heard about the jail that they're building. They got the wrong kind of bond. It required the voters, but they were given, the legislature was given wrong advice, but when they have been told repeatedly that is illegal, they're not stopping the program. They've already had contracts out, and there are a lot of other problems with it, but we need to stop these illegal contracts, or if they make a mistake, they need to come forward, be transparent to the taxpayers. So other things, crime, crony contracts, things like that I'm concerned about. But I am a constitutional conservative. We need to have people we can rely on who will vote for our interests and not squishy people who say that they're conservatives. I will be a person who will have the values of conservatism. And so I would appreciate and be humbled for your vote. Brenda Allen.
Thank you, Brenda. Next.
I don't have a prepared speech, but we're here, all of us, running in Prairie Township for the Republican Committee. Amy, you probably, Amy's currently on the committee, so she can probably speak best to what we're running for.
Oh. Do you all know what a committee person does? No. Okay, so a committee person is the liaison. We argue. We do argue. Is a liaison between you and the party. We are elected members that act as the hands and feet of the party at the local level. For instance, we rent booth space at festivals, man the festivals. We have a GOP committee, a headquarters. How many have been to it in Blue Springs on 40 Highway? Okay, that is one of the duties of the committee. A really important aspect of it, which doesn't happen very often, is that we actually get to select the candidate to run in a special election. So that's why it's very important that you have committee people that are ideologically aligned with what you believe. I think one or two of the things that are going to help save the republic is one, virtue, individual virtue. The second is elected officials understanding the proper role of government. When you vote for a candidate, what you are doing is you are giving your power and delegating it to an elected official. And the proper role of that elected official, in my opinion, according to founding principles, is to secure our God-given unalienable rights. So if you want that, and a committee person, I'd appreciate your vote. I've been on the committee for 10 years, so I'm kind of tired. But let me tell you, I am so excited. In the last 10 years, this is the first year that I am proud and looking forward to the Prairie Township having 6 excellent committee people. And I would highly recommend you voting for all the people standing up here tonight, because you do get to pick 3 men and 3 women for Prairie Township. Okay, I'll shut up.
I was just, that's why I was like, my name on the ballot is Madonna, and in parentheses, Donna Gordon. Everybody knows me as Donna, but my legal name is Madonna, so I'm the chick with the 2 first names. So if you can't remember my name, just look for the 2 first names. I just started going to committee meetings about a year ago just because I was looking for a way to get more involved. So I'm hoping that in this role I can continue doing what I'm doing and just staying in touch and better communicating. I think one of the motivators for me is that there just hasn't been a lot of real good communication as far as what's going on with the party and what's going on in Jackson County. So let's bring on some communicators.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Scott O'Brien. You guys, if you're on Facebook, you know me as Scott for Southeast JaCo. I'm very active. I like to put information out there. 6 months ago, I spoke to this group. It was February, and it was right after we had made an agreement within the Lee Summit School Board election to go in and make sure we did not split the conservative vote in a nonpartisan election. And so myself and another candidate, we said, it's we, not me, and we stepped down to allow Heather Eslick and Jennifer Foley, who won, thank God, for representing us. And as a committeeman, that's kind of my passion. Is I see a lot of vote splitting in either the nonpartisan elections or even in the partisan elections, where you get a moderate who might get 30% of the vote, 35%, and then you get a lot of the grassroots conservatives who will then go and say, hey, I'm inexperienced, but I'm passionate, I have a duty. Our founding fathers talk about our duty to serve our country, and they have that duty, and they say, I'm gonna step up, and then they split the vote. And then the moderate ends up winning, and we get the legislative session that we get in Missouri year after year after year. When we say, how can this happen? We're a solidly red state that is as blue in some areas as New York or California. So a little bit about me. Ever since I was at least 13, I used to carry around a pocket constitution. I was that kid back in middle school that would go in and tell the teachers, you can't search my backpack. You're denying me my due process rights. And I said, it doesn't say what age I get those rights. I get those rights as well. When I was 13 years old, I used to campaign against Bill Clinton in high school. I made posters, and I'd put them on the walls of my high school. I'd print them off and do that. It was all on my own. And I knew it just really got the NEA. My grandma was a Reagan delegate in '84, so this is a heritage that's coming to us. I've got 3 of my 8 kids. They're here in the back. You guys, you've seen them. They come to all these events. We go to board meetings. They even rank which school board meetings are their favorite ones to go to and listen in. So we're getting them involved. It really is about carrying forward that next generation. And one more thing, just about me and my roots. I stood on the foundation of the Constitution from 13 on and was a 30-year Rush Limbaugh listener. I was very sad when Rush passed away.
You're a Rush baby?
I was a Rush teenager in the early years. But I've only been a believer for 20 years. You can have the Bible without the Constitution, but you can't have the Constitution without the Bible, okay? And we won't deny, it is great that so many people in churches now are active and no longer saying separation and no, you can't be active in the church. That is a lie from the enemy. And I'm so thankful that we have so many people of faith stepping into political office. So anyways, Scott O'Brien, Prairie Township Committeeman.
Oh, and I'm Amy Fox. I never said my name.
Now you know what the fox says.
Check the box for Fox.
I'm Lance Dillenschneider, and I want to say, Scott, I didn't carry a Constitution, but I was in the principal's office so much in high school that I thought he was one of my teachers. Anyway, I'm Lance Dillenschneider. I'm running for Prairie Township Committeeman, one of the things, and I'm also speaking for my wife, Storm Dillenschneider, who's running for Committee Woman. So she couldn't be here tonight because, well, as I was telling Amy a little funny story, I won't get into that, but she's kind of occupied tonight. But anyway, I believe what we need as a party is more unity. I really do. I don't think we've got the unity. I think the Democrats are so thrilled with the division that there is in the Republican Party. I would like to help bring the party together. I've been running for office, and I have deliberately made a point to not be choosing candidates or anything like that until after the primary, because I do not want to divide the party any more than it's already divided. We need to come together, and tomorrow night, whoever wins, we need to get behind them 1,000%, because we've got to beat the Democrats. They're the real enemy, not each other. Yes. And my wife feels the same way. I also believe that as a party, we need to actually emulate what the Democrats are doing, because they're winning. They control Kansas City. They control. Actually, we've got Lee Summit, 72% Republican, but who runs the majority? The Democrats pretty much run Lee Summit. Not all of the city council are Democrats, but they pretty much run. Also, Independence, Kansas City, Jackson County has been controlled by the Democrats almost my entire life. We've got to change that. We've got to start winning, and we need to change. We need a new game plan. In a football team, you don't keep running the same plays year after year after year. When you're losing, you change the game plan. And I think if I'm on the committee, my wife's on the committee, that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to focus on, is being winners. In the words of Donald Trump, we want to be so tired of winning. That's what we want. Thank you.
And I'm running as well for committeeman again. I came on at the same time that Amy did, and we've been serving the committee. And
We were Tea Party people.
yes, indeed, and still are. But I would just say further that my name is Dan Stacy, and I'm also one of the state reps. You don't have to worry about voting for me necessarily in the primary at this point, because I don't have a opponent, but I hope you support me in the general. But I would just tell you, some of you know that you've been praying for my wife. My wife had a recurrence of cancer about a year ago, about this time, and you've been praying diligently for us, and I just really want to thank you for that. I just feel so honored and privileged to have had your prayers this past year. My wife did pass away this past Tuesday, and so she was ready. I'll tell you this: we're both believers. She has fought this fight of cancer for 12 years. When we first got the diagnosis, and we went to the specialist in New York, Sloan Kettering in New York, they gave us a prognosis of 2 months the longest anybody had lived that they knew of from this particular cancer was 6 years. That was 12 years ago. And so I believe that she lived as long as she did because of you guys' prayers. And I just thank you so much. She was ready. The last day, it was about as good as it could have been, I guess. I didn't want that to happen, obviously. But I just say, she was saying, she wasn't talking much the last couple of days, but she was saying in the afternoon, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And then I've got 3 boys, and they're all married, and they came in that night, and they all said their piece, and it was a beautiful thing there. She wasn't able to respond to them, but I think she was able to understand what they were saying to her. And then after my last son did his thing, I went and was by my wife and caressing her and just telling her I loved her and those things. And she perked up for just a minute and said, "Are we going to do this?" And I said, "If that's what you want," because I didn't want that, but if that's what she wanted. And 15 minutes later, she was gone. So I'll tell you, I thank you. Seriously, your prayers have been such a blessing to me. I feel lifted up. Certainly none of that was anything that I wanted. I've told several widowers now that come up to me, I've joined your club. It's a club nobody wants to join, and you don't have a choice about the matter, but I've been thinking about it too. Most of us who are married, at least half of us are going to experience this sometime. So it's not, but she's where she needs to be. And so it was a beautiful thing, and thank you for being with us in prayer. And I would mention this, I've got some flyers over there. If you would like to attend her celebration of life and going home service, it's going to be at Blue Springs Christian Church on August the 20th at 3 o'clock is the service, 2 o'clock is the visitation. So we'd love to have you, anybody who would like to come. I think it'll be a blessing to you, I really do, if you want to come. So God bless you, thank you again. And there's flyers over there.
Well, hello. Almost over tomorrow. Yay. All right, my name is Carolyn Caton, and I am running for Sniabar Countywoman. And Amy did a great job of telling you what we do in that particular role. One thing I would also like to add is that we help build the bench. We help recruit and train potential candidates. And the reason I know that, because I'm standing here. I was one of those recruits. So I am a constitutional conservative, and I ask for your vote tomorrow, not just for myself, but also for Ruth Perch in the Sniabar. Once again, Carolyn Caton and Ruth Perch, Sniabar. Thank you.
K or C?
C. C-A-T-O.
Okay, I'm back again. I'm Lance Dillon Schneider. I'm also running for Jackson County Legislature 3rd District. And I'm running in the primary unopposed. And I was telling Amy earlier, I'm going to use the words that Howard Hughes used to the Senate hearings when they said his goose wouldn't fly. He said, "If it doesn't fly, I'll leave this country and I'll never come back." If I screw this up, this primary, and I don't win tomorrow, I will leave this country and never come back. No, I won't take a lot of time. I want to just say, there's 3 reasons that I decided to run for this. One was the nuclear, I call it the nuclear tax increases that are coming down the pike. If we don't get Republicans on that legislature. The second thing is crime. The massive crime epidemic that is taking over our county, and it's fueled by the deadly drugs, fentanyl. Fentanyl is up 80% across the country, and it is the most deadly drug, I believe, that we've ever seen. The third reason is the mandates. I'm a bit against mandates for ever since they brought them out. But the thing that Brenda elaborated on it a little bit, and that is the jail. I'm still, although April and June was discussing this last night, why they paid $7 million for a property that a handful of years ago sold for less than $1 million. That is a old mobile home park in a bad part of town, in a floodplain that has got a lot of drugs in the mobile home park. Now, why that property would have appreciated 7 times over a handful of years as a commercial real estate broker, I have no idea. But April was questioning that, and I'm going to tell you what, that is the tip of the iceberg. I'm a real estate developer also. I've developed a lot of subdivisions. I know what site preparation is. I know what site costs are. They are talking about originally 8 foot of fill on 100 acres. I don't know that I can reach that. 8 foot of fill. Now, I was told by somebody a few weeks ago, well, we've got that down to 4 foot of fill. I'm going to tell you what, that isn't a couple $100,000. I'm going to tell you as a real estate developer, that's going to be mega times more than the cost of the property. It's massive. It's massive. We could be talking 20, 30, 40. I even was told by somebody, I won't mention any names, they've got $50 million budgeted. $50 million. Now, these are not great decisions that they've made. So I'm going to look into that. I think that is very troublesome to me. Everything that they've said is true, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. So anyway, yes, sir.
Got a statement to make. The new jail that they're building is still not big enough to house what they've got now.
It's in the Heart of America Trailer Park.
I know, but it's.
Well, she asked that.
The building is not big enough for what they got in the jail now.
You're right.
Where's they gonna put the extra?
Frank White wanted to cut it.
What are they gonna do in the future?
I was told by someone on the legislature, Frank White decided he wanted that to be half of what it was supposed to be. So yes, sir, I agree, you're right. So anyway, I'm Lance Dillenschneider, running for the Jackson County Legislature, 3rd District at large, and I remember me in the general election. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It is great to see all these faces. We stand at a historic moment in our nation's elections, and I'll get to that in a minute. First, I have to answer the question that I was asked the most tonight as I went around and talked to folks. Donna's at home taking care of the dog. So we got a dog during COVID. His name is Sparky, and he is Sparky, so the only way I'm staying in shape is that dog needs 3 walks a day, so it's a lot.
What's your name? What's your name?
I'll get to it. My name is Jacob Turk. I'm running to be your congressman from the 5th District of Missouri. The current incumbent is Emmanuel Cleaver. In this room, I would be the winner. I would be the winner. And I saw a young lady walking in. She had a bag that said, "Believe on it." Where is she? Oh, there you are. So that reminded me of something that when the Lord called me to this years ago, that these words just encapsulated my values. We believe representatives must listen to all, must lead with integrity, must protect life and property, and must champion opportunity. It's leadership, not politics. And those are my values still today. I'm husband to my wife, Donna, as I mentioned. In fact, we celebrated 20 years this year. Thank you. Appreciate that. She's very patient. But that... Thanks, Chuck. But that does remind me, before we go any further, would all veterans please stand in the room, please? Veterans? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Without all that have served, we wouldn't still have the rights that we have today. So that is heartfelt. I'm a father of 3 grown children. In fact, when my first wife and I unfortunately got divorced, they were 10, 6, and 3, and I got custody. So it was 3 versus 1. Now I'm the grandfather of 3. I am a Marine veteran. I have a heart for veterans. I get my care at the KCVA so I can see from inside the system some changes that need to be made, and I commit to doing that. I hate to see politics played with our veterans. I know that Rick has seen some of this over the years, but just like the burn pit legislation that's in front of Congress right now, that the Democrats have decided to play political football so they can say that Republicans hate veterans. And I get a little exercised at this point, and I do my best not to let my Marine come out and talk in ways that Marines talk. But I'm just tired of them playing politics with our veterans. They did it with the Agent Orange Vietnam vets, and they're doing it again with the burn pit vets, and it needs to stop. So I'll champion that. We have a woke left that has come for our kids, and we need to stand against that. They don't like us. Social media, the Democrats don't like us talking about groomers, but what do you call somebody who takes your first grader, second grader, third grader, goes into a room, talks to them about sex and gender identity, and tells them, don't tell mommy and daddy? Evil. It is evil. And we must fight against that. And on some of these issues, you would say, well, they're more local. Well, one of the things that I plan to do as your congressman is provide an umbrella, a clearinghouse of information to activate folks like yourself. And I should say thank you to all of you that responded to the call on redistricting. We fought that battle as long as we could. Thank you to Rick Bratton on the filibusters that you did, trying to get us the 7-to-1 map. We really appreciate that. We didn't get that. However, we are at a historic moment. We have a red wave that's coming that is unlike anything we have seen in our lives.
Yes.
The last red wave, and I was looking online and some people were saying, well, Jacob Turk's come this close. I don't think people realize how close we came in the last red wave. It was just over 10,000 votes. And that was with no help from besides you guys. And that's what we need again. We can take Cleaver out in this red wave, but it's going to take all of us. We as a campaign push people out as much as we could. If Chuck starts wandering this way, just tell him to go the other way. We push people out as hard as we could as a campaign. And one thing that we'll need different is that we'll need all of you, any of you that want to help, send an email. Are you guys ready? electjacobturk@gmail.com. And if you want to help, send us an email, because what we need is you to find 5 or 10 people. We even have a Centurion program where we're looking for 1,000 people to find 100 votes for us. You don't have to do it all yourself. You can find 10 people with 10 votes, 20 people with 5 votes, but you're going to be responsible for making sure they show up. Because I had, in 2012, I had 53,000 more people that voted for me than in 2014, and I lost by 10,000 votes. We have to turn them out. So anyway, on that note, Chuck, my name is Jacob Turk, and I'm running to be your congressman from the 5th District, and God bless all of you, and God bless America. Thank you. Emmanuel Cleaver, your favorite. And I apologize, I have to go to another appointment after this, but I will.
Let's get Emmanuel Cleaver out of here. This man right here is a good man, and he will do a great job. But every one of us in this room, like he said, we've got to get everybody out to vote for him. Let's get that guy out of here. All right? Thanks, man.
Thank you. And I will introduce my fellow Marine, Rick Bratton.
Good evening. I'm State Senator Rick Bratton. I'm running for the 4th Congressional District. We have a lot going on in America today, don't we? I loved Pastor Tom coming up here and speaking of the need for people to actually stand on principle, stand for the party in which they ascribe to. And I think of Revelation chapter 3, the Laodicean church, where Christ says, either be hot or cold, don't be lukewarm, for I'll vomit you out of my mouth. And I think that's exactly what we're sick and tired of in the Republican Party. A bunch of people who claim to be Republicans, yet when they get in these positions, they do the exact opposite. Right. I'm sick and tired of it, and I have been sick and tired of it since I've been elected. I came in with the Tea Party wave in 2010. I got there, I thought we were going to lock arms, and we were going to take on the government, and we were going to advance freedom in the state legislature. Boy, was I wrong. Unfortunately, that's why I was a co-founder of the Conservative Caucus, and I've been a member of the Conservative Caucus in the Missouri Senate as well. Because not every Republican is created equal. And I think it's time for a purging of the Republican Party. We have an amazing platform in which we ascribe to. That's not being creating disunity within this party. You know, in a church, we don't have people come into a church and start speaking apostasy or heresy in the church. You call that out. Right. You have to snuff out the garbage going on from people that are coming within. Right. You have to purge that. And that's where we're at in America, and that's where we're at, where we have to get people who are going to fight and press in for truth, for freedom and liberty. I mean, we look at what happened with the assault weapons ban, the red flag laws. These Republicans that, I claim to be Second Amendment, but they get up there and they do everything to squander your First and Second Amendment rights every single chance they get. Who remembers the COVID tyranny, the lockdowns, the vaccine mandates, the craziness going on in our schools? Well, guess who was the guy sponsoring this stuff to put a stop to that nonsense? Right here, yours truly. And I'm sick and tired of seeing what's going on. It's crazy. They're after our kids and they're looking to literally indoctrinate them. Why? Because if they can control the youth, they'll control the future. They're not stupid. They realize it's a concerted effort to take out America. That is what we're dealing with. It's the American communist left. Then they do not rest. They do not tire, and they are looking to take us out. That's why they're printing money, spending money. That's why they're doing everything they absolutely possibly can. That's why they wage war on our energy independence. Why? Because if they can snuff out fuel, every single thing in our economy touches diesel fuel. Every seed that goes in the ground, everything that goes on the shelf, everything. So if they wage war on that, they wage war on you. They've waged war on the American economy. And if they can tank that, then they can usher in their world economic craziness that they want to usher in. They don't hide it any longer. Used to, they would tell you to put on your tinfoil hat. Now they embody it, they embrace it, and even the Biden administration says this is their actual plan. So we have to send people who understand this is who we're dealing with. This is all out warfare without the blood in politics. And we have to send those who understand it and have fought for it. This is a show me state. I'm sick and tired of people giving lofty speeches, telling me that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. They get there and they do the exact opposite. I have an impeccable record. Why? Because I believe in the Constitution. I believe that God has ordained this amazing country. We get our rights, our freedoms, and liberties from Him. And if we have to send representatives who understand it and are willing to fight for it. I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States Marine Corps. That oath has never expired, will never expire. And I'm willing to take on the radical left and my own party. See, that's where the distinguishing factor, not being the nice guy, when people who say they are one thing and they do the exact opposite, you have to call it out. And you have to fight against it. And look at the Conservative Caucus in the Senate. They call us the Satan incarnate within the Senate. Why? Because we want to end women or men in women's sports. We want to stop this craziness going on in our schools. We want to stop these things, and we advance those things. Unfortunately, there's people that don't. They don't. I mean, who here, I have to dispel has seen all the stuff out saying I'm for defunding the police and all that stuff. Folks, I was the sponsor of the prohibition of defund the police. of stiffer penalties for anyone attacking law enforcement, for police officers' Bill of Rights to ensure that they have due process and they're not canceled. So I'm so tired of all this political nonsense and all this slander. When I was the guy actually advancing it, and because I voted against a budget bill that expanded Medicaid and Obamacare in this state. Who wanted Obamacare here in Missouri? No. Who wanted to fully fund PDMP program in the state of Missouri to confiscate your medical information? Who wanted that? Well, I voted against it, and that's why they're saying I voted to defund the police. See, that's exactly what it is. It's like a plate of brownies, and they sprinkle a little bit of crap in there, and then I don't want to take a bite. And then they'll attack you for it. That's exactly how politics works. And we got to have people with a backbone and a spine willing to take it on and not give in and realize what's at stake every level. I can go on and on. I'm a senator. But folks, this election is important. Tomorrow is important. There's 7 people on my ballot. And we have to get the right one to take the fight. Doesn't care about the position. I don't want to go to Washington and leave my wife and my 5 kids. But we have to fight. Our nation's at stake. I believe this is the Alamo stage of America. Yeah, right. That's a scary analogy because we realize what happened. It's either freedom and liberty or it's tyranny and control. Which one do you want? Yeah. You have to get out, you have to vote, and you have to elect the right person who's going to take it on. And I will do that as your representative if you're in the 4th. God bless you guys, and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joe Nicola, and I just want to remind Rick, he's a Marine, but Marines are a division of the Navy. I'm a Navy vet. I really didn't want to come after him because we're dressed so similar tonight. But I was out working, obviously. Last week I was here, just those of you that don't know me, my name's on my shirt and my hat. And I pastor a church. I've pastored for 32 years. I'm an author. I've worked for the Blue Springs School District for nearly 17 years. I'm a U.S. Navy Seaview veteran, and I'm a former business owner. So I have a wide range of experience, both in ministry and business and leadership. And I've led numerous trips internationally for humanitarian purposes as well as for ministry. But I need to talk to you about something that's absolutely serious tonight because, as you know, this election is very critical. Yeah. Our nation is at war. We're really in a civil war right now. And this election, tomorrow and then also in November, is absolutely critical to save our nation. Yes, it is. I agree with everything Rick said, and it was a great segue because we have so-called Republicans in the Missouri Senate that aren't Republicans at all. And you can verify that by their voting record. I'm running against Mike Searpoy. The last scorecard that came out, he has voted 79% of the time with liberal Democrats. Mike Searpoy has spent $450,000 in this campaign. He has spent, according to the Missouri Independent newspaper, he has spent $57,000 directly targeting me. Because I'm over the target, and I'm the one he's scared of. And we need to get him out. Last month I was here, I mentioned he lost his Missouri Right to Life endorsement. He is funded through his PAC called Jackson County Leadership PAC by another PAC called Right Path. It's kind of hard to follow all this. Right Path is funded by Washington University alumni and former their board members. Washington University has a fellowship program that trains abortion doctors. And they use baby parts in their research. They're studying embryonic stem cell research, and they're also into human cloning. We have all the documentation to prove this. One of the reasons I'm running is because this is my nature. I love digging out corruption and exposing it. Because as a pastor, part of my responsibility is to protect the flock, to be a watchman on the wall, and to be always looking for wolves in sheep clothing. And we have a lot of them that have R's next to their name, and Mike Searpoy is one of them. He has taken $25,000 from these baby killers. We've been making it public. If he had a shred of integrity, he would have returned it, but he did not. He is draining his account and his PAC's account, attacking me. And I'm having so much fun watching him do it. It is so entertaining. Now, here's what happens when these type of men lose their Missouri Right to Life endorsement. They just create another organization out of thin air, and then they do some graphics and they put it on their Facebook page and website and say, look, I'm still endorsed by pro-life. There it is right there. MissouriPro.life, that he has a graphic on his Facebook page, is a sham organization. It was just began to be formed on July 11th, the very day I was here and I talked about Right Path. They just filed it at the MEC on July 18th. They have a temporary name. This is fraud, ladies and gentlemen. He's defrauding people, he's trying to deceive people, and we have all the documentation to prove it if anybody would like to see it. This is why I'm running, and this is why tomorrow's so important. I need every vote. I'm the one he's scared at. I'm the one he's dumping thousands of dollars to fight against. And I need your vote. I need you to let people know in Lee Summit, Blue Springs, Greenwood, Lone Jack, outside of Grain Valley and Oak Grove, anybody in District 8, contact them tonight and tell them, well, I need your vote. This guy's got to go. Let me tell you something. If he gets reelected, this is his last term. He won't be elected again. Can you imagine what he'll do after all what he's already done? For 4 years? He needs to go, and this is our last opportunity. Tomorrow's the last opportunity to hold him accountable. My name is Joe Nicole. I'm running for Missouri State Senate, and I just ask you for your vote. Give me a vote. Thank you so much.
So, you heard it at the very beginning. I know you did. You heard that he gives us 4 to 6 minutes. That's the most time I've had in I don't know how long. But guess what? I'm not going to take that long. Really what I wanted, I don't have a primary, thank goodness, but we have a school board meeting on Thursday night of this week at Grain Valley Schools. The school board meeting will be full of Democrats because, I don't know if you heard earlier in this year, we told our teachers to take down the LGBTQ stickers from their windows, and we were all over the news. Well, then we have 2 new school board members that got a little bit nervous because we got all these Facebook posts and emails and all this stuff going against us and trying to cancel us. And I said, it's okay. Do I sound like Biden? It's okay. I knew I forgot something. I've been in that position before. I get that it's scary, but I tried to give them some counsel. It'll go away. Let them take the oxygen out of the air, and it will go away. And exactly what I told them would happen, happened. All of it stopped. But then our administration said, you know, maybe we should have a listen and learn. For what? We know what we're going to do. We're going to tell them they're not putting the stickers back up. And you know what's worse is that we had teachers out there going out on Facebook and on the news. Senator, nope. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Keep it up. We had people out. We had teachers out there on the news, on Facebook, saying, "I don't care what the school board says. We're going to put them up." Hello, we signed your contract. Doesn't that worry you? It should, because I guarantee you, all those teachers I have written down, and they're not getting my signature on their contract. So Thursday night, They did have the listen and learn. I was the only one that voted against it. They had it anyway. I didn't attend. Oh, and my general opponent said, I went up to talk to her and said, be nice. I said, hey, how you doing? Don't talk to me. What happened? She's always been really nice to me. I said, what's going on? She says, don't talk to me. I go, why? She goes, were you at the meeting last night? The listen and learn? No. Don't talk to me. Okay, I won't talk to you. But now, since that listen and learn, they've been waiting for this result of this outside firm that we hired with $12,000 of our taxpayer money, right? They're waiting for the results of that firm, which we did get in. I don't like it, and we're going to be presenting it on Thursday night. I would love for us to fill that room with conservatives and to show our school board support. You don't have to be from Green Valley. Half the Democrats, which there's our new board members are scared to death. Did you see how many Democrats were there? Yeah, I think there were 17 of them, and half of them aren't even from Green Valley. That's all the Democrats we have. So, but I would love if you guys would just fill the room on Thursday night, because I've told, and I'll come back to you, I told our superintendent, if by some chance you decide that you're going to allow them to put those stickers up, I promise you we will have Trump stickers, we will have Christian stickers, we will have every kind of sticker out there, because guess what? I will go and make sure that those folks have that opportunity. I'll go and lobby every single person that wants a sticker to have a sticker. So please come out and support the Green Valley School Board so that they know there's more people out there than just those Democrats. Can I ask? Oh, 7 o'clock, Green Valley High School. Right there in the front. You'll see the doors, you'll see the signs. So 7 o'clock, Thursday night, this Thursday night, at the Green Valley High School. Please come out and support our school board. Thank you.
He always talks more than I want him to.
What's his name? Jeff Coleman.
Now a woman's gonna talk. Hi, my name is Rachel Aguirre, and I'm running for the State Senate of the 8th District. What he said was true about our schools. And that's why, as a current teacher in the Lee Summit School District, I am stepping up, and I have stepped out, and I have stood up for our students and for our parents. And just recently, last Thursday, I went before the school board because we have a lot of good teachers in all of our school districts that are leaving. And the problem is that now we're short of teachers. And I asked the school district, why is that happening? It's happening because we are allowing children, and I think we need to get this perspective, children are running our schools. Yep. Children who are being given on their shoulders are carrying adult issues on their shoulders. It is not their job. And so most of you already know my focus on my campaign, and that is our children and our families. You know, we should not have to be defending parents' rights to take care and make decisions for their kids. That's just should be given. But yet we're having to defend them. And this last session, we couldn't even pass a Parents' Bill of Rights to do that with a majority Republican House and Senate and a governor. And so, first of all, I wanted to stop for a second, and there are a lot of people in here. First of all, I know tomorrow's election day, it's the primary, but thank you to all of you who did and have supported me and my campaign, because it's not about me going to Jefferson City, it's about us. There are a lot of parents and grandparents in this school or in this district that are fighting on behalf of what is truth, what is right. And that is so important that we, no matter what tomorrow brings, that we as a collective body continue to do that, because that's very important. We have to stand up for our children no matter what. That's right, our children. Because, you know, Hitler did say, they don't go after the adults, they go after the children. In the book of, in Daniel,
Nebuchadnezzar didn't bring all of these adults in. He grabbed the kids, because when we can change the thought process of a generation or two, we can change the whole society. And right now they're after our children. And we are the wall between our children and the woke left. And we've got to stand strong, no matter if we have differences or not. Because in the grand scheme of things, in the end, I have to stand before God. We all have to stand. And if we can stand and say, I did everything I possibly could to defend our children, that is the most important thing that we as adults have to do. That is why I want to be the next state senator in the 8th district to go to Jefferson City. Because I am willing, I have done it all my life. My endorsements, they only reflect the actions of my life, okay? When my endorsement for Missouri Right to Life is because I stood on the corner of 47th and Troost, and I protested at Planned Parenthood. I counseled young girls. I have been arrested at the abortion clinics trying to save babies, and I unapologetically I would do it all again, because again, if we cannot value the most innocent of our children, how do we expect our children to value us? All right? I've gotten the endorsement for the No Left Turn in Education Action Committee and the Jackson County Parents Association here locally. Not because I'm a teacher, because I'm a teacher who takes a stand on behalf of our children and our families in this district. And in Jefferson City, I will do the same. Our children and our families are the backbone of our society, and we must stand up for our families. Oh, there's so much stuff to talk about. Like I said, you guys know where I stand. I haven't changed where I stand at. You know that the goal for me is to protect our children and our families. Because once we do what we do is right, when we pass the right legislation to protect our children, we all are going to benefit it, whether we're the parents, the grandparents, or just taxpayers. And so that is why it's so important. Now, I noticed that the incumbent decided to do a little comparative, and I'll do this real quick. A little comparative scorecard. The only thing he got right was I lived in the district. That's the only thing he got right. But what he didn't get right was he puts that ID was not endorsed by the NRA. Well, first of all, they're not going to endorse you if you haven't actually voted on any laws. But I did get an AQ rating, which is one of the best ratings if you're not an actual candidate. You know, if you're just a candidate and not an actual senator. Endorsed by Missouri Pro-Life. No, Missouri Pro-Life did not endorse me, but Missouri Right to Life endorsed me. Income tax cuts. I wasn't there to vote those, but you know what? There's no reason why we keep giving our money to the government. And when our federal government continues to try to bribe our states by giving us money, we need to tell them where to stick that red flag. Because the more money we take from the federal government, the more we become enslaved to the federal government. And we have got to tell the federal government, no thank you. We have got to be able to stand on our own as Missouri and defend and protect the people of Missouri, all right? And so, I'm a big, well, has the Second Amendment Preservation Act. I wasn't there to vote on it, but I will tell you this, I'm part of the sheepdogs. I carry because I want to make sure I can protect myself and my family, and I believe that every law-abiding citizen has a right to carry so that they can protect themselves and their families likewise. My name is Rachel Aguirre. I would appreciate, and I need your vote tomorrow to be the next state senator of the 8th district. I am not talk, I'm action, and I will put everything that I have said, I will stand for the Missourians and the people of this district. Thank you so much.
We had, actually that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but we had two other speakers. I had the #1 Second Amendment lawyer in the Midwest to speak tonight. His name is Kevin Jamison, and he's a lawyer up in Gladstone and very involved with the Second Amendment. And he spoke to we the sheepdogs next door, but Kevin, you're not in the room, are you? No, I don't think he is. So we do have one more speaker, and I'm going to tell you something. most atrocious thing going on in this country, in my opinion, is the open border that brings in human trafficking, drug trafficking, illegal aliens. It's the worst thing that I could possibly imagine, is being human trafficked as a little girl and being raped 6,000 times by the time they're 18 years old. Now, you want me to get direct? I'll get direct with you. But I've invited these two speakers. Dan Nash is a co-founder of HTTC and a retired Missouri State Trooper, where he spent 27 years investigating human trafficking, narcotics, and vice, homicide, and other violent crimes. He was the sergeant of the human trafficking unit at the State Patrol and the enforcement supervisor of the Missouri Attorney General's Office Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. I can actually read, I just don't have my glasses on. Allison Phillips is the co-founder of the HTTC. Previously, she served as the director of Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force for the Missouri Attorney General's Office. She was an adjunct professor at the University of Missouri in Kansas City and Mid-America Nazarene University. In sum, Allison has over a decade of experience in counter-human trafficking work through advocacy and multidisciplinary team building. I am so glad they are here to talk to us. And I told them, don't hold anything back. Tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly. But this is an ugly, ugly subject. And Kansas City is a hub for human trafficking. And why it's going on in America, I have no idea. So come on up, my friends.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you for having us. Both Dan and I are not government employees anymore, so the good thing is we get to say what we want here tonight, and we're going to give it to you pretty straight. So that's a nice thing. There are three things we want to talk to you about, specifically related to human trafficking. We want to talk to you about the border a little bit, what we're seeing as a fallout from that. We want to talk to you about efforts in this country to legalize prostitution. And then Dan is going to talk about law enforcement, the state of law enforcement in our country and their level of preparedness to deal with this crime. So the border, I'm just going to highlight three cases that we're aware of, just to kind of give you a small sample of what's happened now that we've opened our border. In December of last year, December of 21, a Kansas State Trooper that we had trained pulled over a vehicle in southwestern Kansas in the middle of nowhere. Routine traffic stop. Inside the SUV were 9 Hispanic males and 1 adult female. And this trooper had just been trained to recognize indicators of exploitation. So he pulled the female aside and spoke to her separately, and she, after a brief conversation, said, "There's a little girl in the van." And so the trooper did a search of the inside of the van, and he found a 3-year-old girl from Guatemala, Ecuador, excuse me. I'm blending my stories. She was hidden under some blankets under a rear seat in the back of this SUV. She was not related to any of the adults in the van. She had been separated from her family at the border, and the driver of the van did not know where he was taking her or who was going to be picking her up. Now, I don't know what was going to happen to this little girl when she met her destination, but I think we can all agree it's nothing good. And little girls like that make ideal victims for all kinds of horrific things because nobody even knows they are here. And we see this over and over. Recently, in the last year, a woman that I worked with in the task force here in Children's Mercy Hospital in Jackson County had told me about a disturbing trend that she was starting to see. One was a 12-year-old girl from Honduras who presented to the hospital. She was pregnant. The nurse saw indicators of trafficking with this 12-year-old. The only reason why she was at the hospital, because her family did not want to bring her because they were told that they would be deported or would get in trouble or so forth. It was because it was kind of an extreme case. And here's the thing that you should know, and Dan will talk about this more, because of what we have done to our police in this country and even here where we live, nobody responded to that call for help for this 12-year-old girl. When I spoke to the officers who were in charge of this, they apologized to me and said, I'm sorry, it was just 4 days after they said, I don't remember which case this was. And he apologized to me, he said, because we are so overrun by this kind of thing. We do not have law enforcement resources to deal with this. This little girl ended up going right back to where her family, which is presumably where this had occurred. Recently, I heard of another case of an 11-year-old girl from Guatemala who came to that same hospital. She presented for all kinds of healthcare issues, and they were extreme enough that her family was willing to take the risk of bringing her to the hospital because there are implications for that if you're not documented. Underneath her clothing, she was wearing lingerie, an 11-year-old girl. Okay, this is happening here in our midst. And this is all on purpose. And when the Biden administration tells us that opening our border and what is happening is humanitarian, you need to know that exactly the opposite is true. It's exactly the opposite. We are allowing very vulnerable people, especially children, into our country, and nobody even knows they are here. And it's carte blanche for traffickers to do things like this because they're part of families and communities that don't want to report to law enforcement. And it's happening in increasing numbers, and it's very troubling. I saw a news story out of Oklahoma recently. I don't know if any of you saw this. A tractor trailer broke down in a neighborhood. You saw this, I see you nodding. There were some businessmen who saw this semi-truck break down, and they heard yelling from in the back of it. And so they went and they opened it up, and inside were 50 children. Children, they were 9 to 13 years old. They had been inside the back of the semi for at least 24 hours. There was feces and urine in there. They had signs of abuse. They had been beaten. The men who were driving the truck, another SUV came alongside, and they hopped into the SUV and drove off and came back sometime later, and they got some of the kids, but some of the kids escaped. What were they going to do with these children? They were not with their families. God help us. So every year, because of what I do, there's a document that's put out by the United Nations. It's called the Trafficking in Persons Report. It's a global report that provides a statement of, an assessment of every nation's efforts to combat human trafficking. And I was really disturbed by the report that came out for the United States just this last year. In the past, this report, this TIPS report, is what's called Trafficking in Persons Report, has talked about the effect of our border policy on human trafficking. All of that language is gone. It's like it's not even there anymore. And it's replaced with things like, all their little pet agenda things like, climate change is increasing human trafficking. Well, I can tell you that's a bunch of bull. And they cherry pick things like, and it's true, this is true, but they're using this for a political agenda, that people who are LGBTQ are particularly vulnerable and exploited in human trafficking. This is true, and this is something I'm very vocal about because we have to protect, especially kids who are sucked into this kind of thing. But that's not how it's being portrayed. It's all of this federal report that's put out about our state's efforts is all, when I walked away from reading it, I thought, my goodness, this whole thing is, the number one thing that they are talking about is our political agenda comes first, and the welfare and the safety of victims, to the extent to which it meets a political agenda, great, but it's really very secondary, and I see that. So the other thing I want you all to be aware of as voters, and as people who are politically active, is you need to be aware that there are well-funded efforts in this country to legalize prostitution. And a lot of them are funded by a guy named George Soros. And just like he has funded all of this stuff with, putting all these prosecutors in place in cities to create chaos, he recognizes that this will do the exact same thing. legalizing prostitution is every trafficker's dream. It makes them legitimate businessmen. They are putting forth, they want to fool you into thinking that if we legalize prostitution, we are making it safer. We are, we're regulating it and we're providing all these things. All of this is a lie. It is not true. There are countries in this world where we have legalized prostitution, and every single time we do, it increases human trafficking for the purpose to meet prostitution many, many fold. There are never enough people who want to get into that willingly to meet it. And all of these things that they promise, that it'll be safer and we'll regulate it and they'll have workers' rights, none of that is ever realized. It's all a big lie. All it does is benefit traffickers. And all we need to do is look to the state of Nevada, where we have legalized prostitution in some areas. The black market for it, the illegal market, increases many-fold. And the traffickers, they will recruit victims and they will force them and coerce them and fraud them into that. So if this happens, and we will basically lose our fight against human trafficking in this country. The greatest effort, I know there are people in Missouri who have tried to do this. They weren't very well organized or funded, so they were not successful. But right now, the front line for doing this is the state of Oregon. They know this is probably a fertile ground where they could probably get away with fooling the electorate into thinking that this is an enlightened thing that somehow will protect vulnerable populations, when it's absolutely the opposite. If they are successful in doing this in Oregon, I suspect that the state of Washington will follow, and the same with California. And God help all of the families of young children, especially young girls in those states, because they will be targets for it. All right, so now Dan is going to talk about where law enforcement is on this.
So I was in this parking lot, and we'd had complaints in this parking lot about some possible prostitution activity. So I'm standing here, and I see this girl come out, and she's probably early 20s, and she's with this 35-year-old male. And I go up and I talk to him. I identify myself as law enforcement, and I'm using the training that I have, which law enforcement does not have human trafficking training. No law enforcement gets human trafficking training in the academy in Missouri and most any other state. So I'm using what training I have. I've separated them. I'm talking to them. I'm asking them questions. How do you know each other? Where are you coming from today? Where are you going to? Where are you working? How are you getting money? All these kinds of normal questions, right? And the more I talk, the more that this young lady is getting belligerent with me. The male subject's multi-time convicted felon. I have no idea why he's not in prison still, but he's out, and he's not being very cooperative, but I expect that. Her, on the other hand, she is not being cooperative, but I didn't really expect that. And I'm trying to talk to her, and I'm asking her, what's going on? Or somebody forcing you to do something against your will? All these kinds of things. And it's not working. It's not working. She's getting frustrated. I'm getting frustrated. We're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until finally I say, fine, you're free to go. And off she goes. 2 months later, local police call me and say, hey, have you come across this gal, Jane Doe? And I said, yeah, I know her. I met her a couple months ago in a parking lot. And they're like, yeah, we found her today in one of those rent-by-the-week hotels, one of those hotels that all towns have, the rent-by-the-week ones that nobody wants to stay at, right? And she was dead in a bathtub. And the officer says, yeah, we, no signs of foul play or anything. It looks like she just committed suicide in this bathtub. And they said, we can't very well. Her grades were getting bad. She wasn't getting along with friends. She was kind of belligerent and not very friendly and easy to get along with. And then in high school, she started running away, and she started using drugs and alcohol, and she started dating older guys, and she became that girl. Until finally at 17, she left home, and I never saw her. Until 2 years later, I get a call from social services, and they say, hey, is this your daughter? And she says, yes, this is my daughter. And they're like, well, she's at the hospital right now. She just gave birth to a son. But the son tested positive for methamphetamine, so we have to remove the son. She said, will you take your grandson? And the grandmother said, of course I will. And she rushed down to the hospital, and she met her grandson, and she took a photo of her grandson, and she gave that to her daughter. And the officer said, on the lip of the bathtub where we found her dead was that photo of that little boy. And when she left the hospital, the grandmother never saw her daughter again, and she never saw her son again. And she was a victim of trafficking that time when I met her on the parking lot. And that really bothered me because I really let her down. I did. In law enforcement, we take an oath to protect and serve, and I didn't protect her, and I sure as hell didn't serve her. I let her down. And the reason I think I let her down was because I didn't have any idea what to do. We were not trained. We were not trained properly to handle this. Only 8% of law enforcement in all of America is trained in any kind of human trafficking skills-based training. 8%. Hospitals are worse. 88% of trafficking victims roll through the medical system because of what they're involved with. They get beat up, they get assaulted, they get sexually assaulted, they have STDs and UTIs and all kinds of problems, and they roll into the medical system, and nationwide only 4% are identified because doctors and nurses don't get training either. But yet we get training in how to arrest a drunk driver, but we don't get training in human trafficking. And here in Missouri, like most states, we have more detectives that investigate cattle theft than investigate human trafficking. Wow. Not to say that cattle aren't important. If I had my cow stolen, I'd be unhappy. But seriously, are we really putting cows ahead of our kids? Ahead of young adults? Ahead of people? And in the United States, the average life expectancy of someone that's involved in being a trafficking victim is 34 years old. It's 7 to 9 years once they get involved in that. 7 to 9 years. Allison talked to you about the border, and the border is a problem. The border is part of this, and I don't think, honestly, we can even do the border justice probably for another year or two. It's kind of like what's happening now in law enforcement with defund the police. The fact that KCPD's 300 officers down, the fact that they disbanded their cold case squad, the fact that Seattle PD will no longer investigate an adult female that is sexually assaulted. They will only investigate juveniles because they don't have anybody to investigate adult sex crimes anymore in Seattle. They don't have enough police. And the fact that we cannot get police. When I applied years and years and years ago to be a Missouri State Trooper, there were 6,500 people that applied for 60 spots. This last selection process, they had 300 apply. We couldn't find 60. That's the truth. And we've created that. Nobody wants to be the police anymore. And we don't have proper training to handle human trafficking. So what do? How do we handle this? There's no money in law enforcement. So when Allison and I left the government about a year ago for a couple of different reasons that we won't get into, we decided that government is, and I'd spent 27, almost 28 years there. I'm just going to give you a little news flash, okay? The government's not the answer. It's not going to fix this. It's not. It's too much bureaucracy. It's too broken. It's just got too many problems. It's not rocket science. We could fix this human trafficking problem if we wanted to. We just don't have the desire or the interest. So how do we do this? If we cannot trust the government to do it, how are we going to do it? So Allison and I came up with this idea that, you know what? If law enforcement's not going to train their own people, we'll train them. Right? So that's what we do. We now travel all over the world, really. In fact, Allison was talking about the border. I just came back from the Ukrainian border, where we were teaching law enforcement in Ukraine and Moldova. And I'll give you a little tidbit of information. Our border is way, way worse. Significantly worse. Significantly worse. In fact, I don't know if you saw this, but even the United Nations, which I don't put a lot of stock into, has even said that we have the most dangerous border in the world now. And we're not going to know what's, for another couple of years, like I said, about how bad and what the results are going to be. So how do we do this? So we go out and we train law enforcement. In fact, tomorrow Allison and I will be heading up to Bismarck, North Dakota to train officers there. The week after that we'll be in Dallas. The week after that we'll be in Arizona. The week after that we'll be in Little Rock. 2 weeks ago we were in Idaho. We'll do 42 trainings in 23 states. We're training in Europe. We're training in Guatemala. We're training in Central America. We're training all over the world to try to do our part. And how we do this is by working with people like you. When we started training at KCPD a year ago, we did 5 trainings there, I think, now. So we've trained probably 400 officers total from not only KCPD, but around the metro area. And those officers, within a week the first time, the first training we did was within 7 days, KCPD found a trafficking victim. And then another one after we did the next training. We just came back from Idaho 3 days after we left. Spokane, Washington, found a 15-year-old girl. I got a call from Oklahoma Saturday. They not only rescued a 22-year-old female, but her 6-year-old daughter who was being sexually abused. They were all illegals, by the way, and they were being trafficked by 2 other illegals. And nobody knew they were in the country. So we do this because clearly we're the only ones that can. It's a community. And we need people like you to help, because it's not strictly just a law enforcement problem, it's a community problem. We've allowed this stuff to happen. The breakdown of the family, the breakdown of social mores, the breakdown of all that. Because I know what people think in human trafficking. It's like, oh yeah, my daughter's walking down the road and somebody kidnaps her and throws her in a van and drives off with her. That's not human trafficking in the United States of America. Human trafficking in the United States is some child that has some vulnerability. Like I told you earlier about the girl in the bathtub. She was molested from the time she was 7 to 9. I personally, in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of girls that I've interviewed, have only found one girl in all that time that was not sexually abused as a kid. It's almost always the same story. Time after time after time after time after time. Mom's boyfriend, Uncle Jim, grandfather, my cousin. So it's vulnerabilities that create these victims who are then groomed by these traffickers. And these vulnerabilities can come from a lot of different places. But what we see most importantly is sexual abuse, physical abuse as a kid, number one. And then it can be a host of other vulnerabilities. But this is not a white thing, black thing, Hispanic thing, Asian thing. It's not even a rich thing or a poor thing. I've had really rich girls that were being trafficked, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing out here? Why did you run away? What's going on in your world? It's because mom and dad were really rich and they were never around. She was being raised by some nanny that she didn't even know and going to boarding school. Mom and dad were on a jet somewhere in Europe. What was she looking for? What was her vulnerability? It was just love. She just wanted love. And nowadays, where do kids find that at? They go online, which is the most horrible thing they can do, and they find someone on there that's willing to give them whatever they want. If it's love, they give them love. If it's money, they give them money. And then the next thing you know, they've run away or they left home or whatever, and now they're in a pickle. That's what it is. So we go around and we train these officers all across the country, and what we find is that during the training, usually after day 1, it's usually 2 days, and after day 1, these officers are coming up to us, and they're basically sometimes in tears. And you know why? And they always say the same thing. I've missed this. I let this get away. I feel so bad because I let someone down now. I didn't know what to do. And Allison and I have to console them and say, it's okay. You weren't trained properly. You weren't provided the skills and the tools. And it all matters about what's going forward. It's all about what's going forward. So she talked to you, Allison did, about Children's Mercy, and we talked real briefly about the medical system and how it's no different. So in the medical system, when Children's Mercy and a good friend of ours started implementing their training and their system at the hospital, a screening process for looking for exploitation and trafficking, they were averaging between 0 and 2 kids a year at Children's Mercy KC. Last year they found 102. It's all within 5 years. Nothing changed but the training. Allison and I followed a large law enforcement agency that we were training 1,500 police officers. They had 0 trafficking cases in their entire department. We started training them. The first year they found 6. The second year they found 25. The third year they found 47. Nothing changed except the training. We cannot expect the police to do stuff that they're not trained to do. We don't know what we don't know. We train police officers to go and look what a drunk driver looks like, and then how to talk to them, and how to do a standard field sobriety test, and how to do a chemical test. But we don't teach them how to look for trafficking victims or look for traffickers. It's nuts. But that's the system that we have. And they have no money to do it on their own. So, Allison and I work with faith-based groups. We work with businesses of all kinds, banks, you name it, we've worked with it probably in all kinds of different parts of the country to provide training to law enforcement. So we've done, I think, 5 trainings now total. We have another one in December here in Kansas City, and we just find the funding. And it's weird how it happens, because we used to really stress about it. But what we find is that God always comes up with it. It's crazy how it happens. It is. It's totally crazy. So, yes, ma'am. December. It's police officers mostly, but we open it up for law enforcement, victim advocates, and I mean, if we do have a community event that we do for the community. In fact, we're going to probably do one of those up here in this area. I don't live in Kansas City, so Allison lives on the Kansas side. I live in southern Missouri. But we're going to do one of those again, I think maybe October, November, something like that.
How about paramedics?
We do. We allow them to come. We allow nurses and doctors and elected officials can come. I don't know where Jeff just went to, but Jeff hangs out with us. And for those of you that, I know Jeff's not running for election, but when Alice and I left the government and started doing what we were doing, Jeff is the only elected official that called us and said, can we have a meeting? And we met at that little, what's the name of the store in Greenwood?
It's Rehope Cafe.
Yes, Rehope, the one that, yes, Rehope with the Restoration House. And because Alice and I do a lot of stuff with Restoration House, so we met there and we sat with Jeff for 4 hours. And this is what Jeff says. I have no idea what to do about human trafficking. I don't know if I even understand it. But I have a pile of daughters at home, and I'm in a position that I want to help. What can we do? So we started rewriting some legislative stuff. We started doing some things. But he was the only elected official that reached out to us and asked us, talk to me about this. Teach me. Educate me. What do I need to know about human trafficking? So Jeff's a good guy. I'm sure these other folks were up here tonight were good too. I just don't know them. Like I said, I'm not from this part of the state. So, hang on a second, sir. So what we're going to do is we always leave with some type of a challenge. And that challenge is basically, at least tonight, is when we find these trafficking victims, right, and get them out and get them help and all the stuff that they need, what we find is when we talk to them, they will tell you that they are pro-police. And I never really understood that. Because generally the police have not been overly friendly to them. Because the police usually arrest them for prostitution. Because the police historically have never been taught that these girls are not out here because they want to be. They're out here because they're being forced to. And we know that all the research is pretty consistent. 90 to 95% of these girls are forced into this activity. And I don't need a PhD to tell me that, because I know no woman is sitting around when she's 14 years old going, geez, if I could just grow up and be a prostitute, man, I'd have life lived. Please God, please God, please God. That's not what they're thinking. I don't need a PhD to figure that out, okay? But it's really amazing how they always are pro-police. So I asked them, why do you still like the police? You've not had good experiences with them long term. And this is what they say. Because there was always that one. Yes, sir.
Dan, your last name?
Nash?
N-A-S-H.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
What is Jeff's last name?
Coleman. All right, yes, ma'am.
Do you have like a website or?
We do. I have some business cards that I'll set up here, and you guys can grab some as you want. That's all Allison and I have. Is there any other questions before we're done?
How long does it take to train a police officer?
2 days. 16 hours.
What would you have done different with that first encounter that you know now?
What we see and what Allison and I created is something called the Special Victims Methodology, and I won't get into all that, but it's a way to handle a trafficking victim. Across the country, the disclosure rate of a trafficking victim is about 7%. In other words, they tell you that they're being trafficked about 7% of the time because they're trauma bonded, they have PTSD, they have Stockholm Syndrome, they have all these things, right? So we created a way through the Special Victims Methodology to increase that to about 45%. So it's almost half, but it's a special way to do it, and if you just come out and ask them, they're not going to tell you. Yes, sir. Private funding, private donors, faith-based community, local businesses, national businesses, a ton of variety of places.
So how do we get them all?
I'll give you a business card. Yes, ma'am.
What percentage of kids or teens are trafficking other teens?
Are trafficking other teens? It's fairly low. Yeah, it's almost always an adult that is the actual trafficker. What we will see sometimes is other juveniles that will help recruit. They'll help recruit other juveniles. We see that. So there's something in the trafficking world called the bottom. So the bottom is kind of like the assistant trafficker. Just think of it as this way, right? The trafficker is the manager. The bottom is the assistant manager. And if you're a trafficking victim, it's always better to be the bottom because you get special privileges and you basically recruit and do other things. And here's the most important thing. If you're the bottom because you're spending all your time recruiting and doing other things and gathering up money and stuff like that, you don't have to be raped 12 times a day. You may only get raped 6 times a day. So if you're in this position, I tell you right now what I do. If I'm going to be raped 12 times a day or 6 times a day, I want to be the bottom. And the other thing that we'll see is forced criminality, where the traffickers will give these folks a choice. You owe me $1,500 today. You can go get it by turning tricks, or you can go get it by using this credit card and buying stolen stuff, or helping me rob people, or whatever it is. So that either way, the money's coming in. Yes, sir. Excuse me? Oh, about 80 to 85% are female. So 10 to 15% or so. Yes.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Really sober to have to face it, right? Some people tell you it's all okay, right? It's not okay. It's a lot going on. We need to fix. We got one more candidate, and I don't. What's
Jerry Wistrand. Jerry Wistrand.
Jerry Wistrand. There you go, Jerry.
Thank you.
I'm running for Snibar committeeman. I've been on the committee for 2 years. I've been volunteering, helping with canvassing for years, with putting on the festivals that we have throughout our town. And I just want to stick with the committee and just keep improving our contacts both within the committee itself, but also within the community. I'm working hard. I'm president of United for Principled Politics. We, this year, have gone and vetted most all contended state representative and state senate positions across the state, and we put that out on our Facebook page. Again, it's United for Principled Politics. We also have vetted candidates here in the county, and we put both our recommendations, and I think it's very important that we also put down the explanation for our recommendations. And so they're also available on our Facebook page. As everybody says, it's important to go get out to vote. We got a lot of issues that we need to address. We got too many people that are involved with basically not supporting the Republican platform and getting things resolved instead of continuing. And we've also just recently been involved with the Missouri pro-life thing that's just came up recently.
This is your race, right? Your race?
Pardon?
Your race? Tell us about your race.
My race is basically to put everything together and keep everything going to help get the message out, get people more understanding of all of what we're doing, and getting more solutions to the problems that we have. Thank you.
What?
Pardon? Sniper committeeman.
Just real quick wrap up, and I kind of tie in some of the things in when it gets into the political space especially, and we all know this. It's not enough just to vote Republican, all right? You have people of principle, people of conviction. They've been consistent year after year after year. They say what they say because it's what they believe, not because it's politically expedient. And we're in a world right now that's just really lost and out of control. Think about just what's happened in the last month, right? We've been told that CRT wasn't in our schools. Think of it, they told us that. We've been told that nobody can actually define what a woman is. No, we've been told that. Okay? Yeah, well, imagine that. Okay? We've been told that Roe v. Wade provided a constitutional right for abortion. That's a lie from the pit of hell. We've been told that nobody knows what a recession is. Okay? And it's funny, but we have a national media and one particular party that will go down that path full throttle and try and tell you over and over again what the truth is when they know what they're saying is a lie. And so we need to be smart. And we've had candidates here come up and talk and share their principles, convictions, and some of us got behind certain candidates and we supported people. That's what we do, and that's smart. What's really important for us as this group right here is that we have a campaign tomorrow, and there's going to be some people elected, and there's going to be some people that don't get elected. Okay? The ones that are in this group that win, everybody in this room needs to say, yeah, that's my person. I'm getting behind them. I'm going to work for them. Because you want to talk about being vetted, this group has had people out here, and you know what? We're going to stand, if you haven't noticed, we don't come up here publicly and say, I'm for that person or that person. We have our favorites, we have our people that we like, but we don't put that out there because that's not our place to put that influence right here and now. But what we want to know is that we want to have elected leaders who are going to be men and women of principle, who stand up and say, I believe in this principle, I believe in the right to life. And I'm telling you, I mean, it really gets personally, and I'm not one of those people who would vote blindly for a Republican, but I'm smart enough to understand this. One party was founded on the idea that people that looked like me should have every freedom that every other American had. That's real. That party, as we know, has drifted, not necessarily on that issue, but it's drifted on some other principled issues. And you can call them rhinos. But the truth is we need principled leaders, again, like Abraham Lincoln, that stood his ground, not because it was convenient and it was safe, obviously it wasn't safe even after he got elected. But he wanted to do the right thing, and I think we got people in this room that are going to go out and do the right thing when we give them a chance. So I would encourage you tomorrow to make sure, first of all, you get out and vote. Then, go paint a mustache on and go back and vote again. Oh, wait a minute, that's what they do. Alex, you're on that. Get out there and let our guys know we're behind them. And if you can work for somebody at the polls tomorrow, get out there and work for somebody at the polls tomorrow. But we need presidents, we need our votes to count, and we need our people to win. Because that's what we're going to change this place. So with that, we're going to have a quick word of prayer, and then we're going to let you go out and breathe some, I would say it's cooler air, but I'm not sure. But we will let you get out of this space.
It was 68 when you got in here tonight.
So it's all your fault, that's what he's saying. So let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we give thanks to you for this nation, for our founding fathers, for those men and women who sacrificed so much to birth a nation, and for those who chose to carry it forward. We thank you for our founding documents. We said, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. God, that pledge, that creed, preamble would resonate in our hearts and in the voice and heart of every leader in this nation. We ask you to bless the candidates tonight. Pray that as they're awake all night, as they're going to be, I pray, Lord, that their thoughts should be clear and more focused in terms of your plan and purpose for their lives and for this nation and for our state. We ask you to bless this community, bless the people of the United States of America to be God-fearing and trusting in you and living in a way that blesses our nation. For we testify as a psalmist that blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. We bless you, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen. Guys, just a reminder, if we could, the bowl of goodwill is over here, and